Welcome back to Knit a Spell. I'm your host, Katie Rempe, and today I'm thrilled to welcome a first-time guest, Emily O'Brien. Yay!
Wow.
Emily is the creative force behind Kitty with a Cupcake, where she designs cute and clever products for fiber lovers, witches, and everyone in between. Emily is also the co-organizer of the Fiber Witch Festival alongside Anna Campos, our guest from last week. Woo! We'll be talking all about the magic of creative adaptation, the evolution of her product line, including some super fun Pride Pal pin system, which I'm like, Pride Pal pin system sounds like knitting needles. I can't wait to learn more. And plus what it's like to run a major fiber event. Light from Lantern presents Knit a Spell. I'm your host, Katie Rempe, designer, knit witch, and your companion in this magical making podcast. Together, let's explore the enchanted world where knitting meets the magic of the craft. Let's dive in with our first question, which is, what led you to start Kitty with a Cupcake? I love the name.
Thank you. I wanted a name that was both cute and easy to spell.
Smart.
I have always been a really creative person, and I have had creative side hustles like since high school. I used to make like little felt toys that I sewed and sell them on Etsy. And it's always been something that I've been doing in the background, but never something I was able to support myself doing. My career background is I went to school for theater design and like made puppets and stuff. And then all
Cool.
of my actual jobs have been in like creative marketing for small businesses. So doing email newsletters, social media, blog posts, that kind of thing. And I kind of took that knowledge into my creative business and ran my first Kickstarter in 2021 for the Magical Merit Badges, which are a series of enamel pins that are inspired by Girl Scout badges, but for different types of witches. And that was way more successful than I expected it to be. I have a craft witch badge.
I have it in 2 different variations, yes.
Yes. So I'm really happy that that is something that other people really enjoyed. And basically that allowed me to launch with a Cupcake and go full time with this. So.
So it started in 2021, you said?
Yeah, I started working full time for Kitty with a Cupcake in 2022. So I continued to work my previous job for about a year and then transitioned to just doing this.
Between then and now, how has the creative process evolved since you've launched?
I think that I could have done this a while ago. I
Oh,
think that I could have like launched an enamel pin collection earlier in my career if I would have been more confident in my art and that other people would enjoy my art style and want to own things that I had designed. So I think becoming more confident after like talking to people at events and seeing that people like my stuff and knowing that if I like something and I think that it's cute and fun and something that I would want to like put on my stuff, then other people probably would like it too.
so you just had to get out of like the one person office in order to get like the feedback and build that confidence from there. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think I mean, I have anxiety, so I think being like, "Oh, I don't know if people will like this, and should I even bother doing it?" was like getting in my way more before I had had a success. And now I'm more able to be like, "No imposter syndrome. Like people will enjoy
Yes.
it."
So, your Pride Pals interchangeable pin system is a very clever concept. Like I said in the intro, it reminds me of knitting needles that are interchangeable. Are you a knitter at all?
Yes.
Okay. How did the idea come about in terms of it being like, oh, these should be a series of pins?
So I didn't even think of the interchangeable knitting needle connection until you brought it up. And I love it. But I knew I wanted to create pronoun pens. And when I first designed them, they were called pronoun pals, but they have evolved beyond into like accessibility stuff. So now they're Pride Pals. But I liked that pronoun pins are a pin that serves like a specific purpose and is practical
Mm.
aside from being like just cute flair. It like tells people something about you and is useful so you don't have to be like, yo, my pronouns are this right away. But I thought it would be fun to include pride flags in there with them. A lot of pronoun pins that I had seen were really practical and plain and less like fun, which makes sense because they're serving a purpose. But like, I need things to be fun.
Fun and function.
Yeah, fun and function. Hell yeah. So I was like thinking about how I could combine the pride flags and the pronouns. It quickly like just becomes too many items if you're combining them in one pin. So I got the idea of stacking them, and they kind of looked like a sandwich when I started to stack them. And that is how the Pride Pals were born. I was like, I have this little sandwich. What if I had a cute little like animal head and butt below the stacking pronoun pride flag stuff? And then it just like exploded from there.
Such a clever idea. It also reminds me of like stacking rings on top of each other and like, there you go. What a great way to add layers because people are full of layers. I just love it. They're so freaking cute. And so how do you keep your product line fresh while staying true to your brand's magical aesthetic?
So since the magical merit badges, with the exception of the zodiac merit badges, which are like companion item to the magical merit badges, nothing that I have designed for Kitty with a Cupcake has been like 100% witchy themed. When I do a new collection, I tend to think about what makes the most sense for that collection. And then I'm kind of like, and now let's add a witchy flavor. I don't like to be tied down to one thing. So like going with whatever is my interest at the time. So like with the Pride Cat Pals, I did the cat and the pug first because like dog and cat just like makes sense as the first animals to do. And then I kind of did raccoons and like a possum because trash pandas are really popular right now. And then I was like, wow, what about a colt? And then Baphomet and like Baba Yaga and the ghost and everything came into it.
Something for everyone in the product line.
Yes.
How does designing playful products help raise awareness about topics like ADHD, LGBTQ, and practicing magic?
I think that a lot of these topics can be scary to certain people. So for me, adding a bit of fun can make them more approachable. We know as practicing witches that we aren't out here like performing sacrifices and hexing people or whatever. We're just like collecting our shiny rocks and enjoying nature and asking questions for a pretty card. It's really chill. So I just like wanted to bring like that childlike element of fun and whimsy into witchcraft because it's not scary. It's like comforting and lovely. So yeah, just like nostalgic colors kind of came into it and infused with that. And I really enjoy the community aspect of pins and really anything like geeky that you wear. Like if you're wearing a Baba Yaga shirt out in the wild and you see someone and recognize and say like, oh, I love your Baba Yaga shirt, then you like have a little friend for 10 seconds and you have something in common with that person. And if you see someone wearing a pansexual pride plaque and you're pansexual, you know that you have something in common. It's a great conversation starter. And even if you don't talk to another person that you see wearing something that like pertains to you, you have this like visual moment of being like, oh, they're like me in a way. And just, it's just this nice little unsaid community.
It also reminds me of, have you ever been to like Disney?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or Disney park sleeve tattooed on my arm. That's definitely one of my special interests.
So you're familiar.
Part of why I design pins because I do collect Disney pins.
Yes. Okay. I, until like fairly recently, didn't realize that this was like a whole side thing to this theme park experience where you wear your pins and then people also are wearing their pins and then you say, hey, do you want to trade? So do you find that happens like not only at places like Disney where they're kind of like expecting that, but like, fiber festivals and things like that too?
That is a fun idea. I don't think people really trade pins as much at fiber festivals as much as being like, oh, where'd you get that? I want to get it too. And that might be because we're so into supporting artists as fiber artists. So it's like, oh, I want to go buy that from that artist because I want to support them in their art as opposed to doing a trade. But I do love the idea of traded pins at fiber festivals. I think that would be really fun. And I do think that there is more of a culture of that at like comic conventions. I vend at comic conventions. I'm doing one this weekend. People will like bring me stuff and be like, hey, I made this sticker. Do you want to trade stickers? And that's always like a fun way to meet new artists and build community.
Speaking of fiber festivals, you are the co-organizer of the Fiber Witch Festival with Anna. How did you get involved with that, and what has that experience been like?
So I visited Salem, and when I go to a new place, I drop off products at stores that I think my stuff will resonate with, because it's always nice to have a physical sample instead of just emailing someone. And I met Annie, the shop manager, and she showed my items to Anna, and they liked them. And Circle of Stitches started carrying my stuff. And they're one of my top wholesalers because that just makes a ton of sense, right?
Yes.
I have a ton of knitting stuff. I have a ton of witchy stuff. They're the witchy knitting store. So my friend Kemper and I, who used to die under junk yarn, planned a New England trunk show tour. And Anna welcomed us to Circle of Stitches as one of the stops on the tour. And the trunk show was a really big success. It was super fun. And Anna and I got to like hang out in person and work together and get to know each other a bit. And she was kind of like brainstorming, playing around with the idea of a witchy fiber festival. And I said that I would love to help out. I have a lot of experience in marketing, so she should hit me up for that. And we ended up like planning the whole thing via Zoom. And I became more of like a partner and co-organizer than just a marketing person. And we made this like beautiful thing together. We both have really different strengths and interests, and it makes us really great partners to be able to work together and do as different aspects of running the show. And yeah, we did the whole thing digitally online, and it was really great to come back to Salem almost a year later after that trunk show where we had kind of talked about it a little bit, and stay with Anna and see this thing that we built come together into the physical world.
I did not realize until I talked to Anna that this past year was the first year. Extremely, wildly successful.
It was great. I think it really surpassed our expectations and met all of our goals, and we're both like really thrilled about it.
What has been like the most surprising aspect from your point of view of working with the festival and, seeing it grow so much in just 1 year?
It was a ton of work, especially that last week that I went to Salem a week early, and we were like physically doing all of this stuff. And it felt like right up until the last minute, we felt like, how is this going to work? Just because it's the first time we did it, we were like, we don't know so much. And like, is this going to work out? It's going to be a disaster. Oh no. But it like went really smoothly. And since then, I have talked to many festival organizers, and they were like, that's always how it feels. That's normal.
Totally.
So yeah, getting to see the people waiting outside to get into the event, the giant line that I had to go outside and manage was like crazy. It was like, oh, all these people are like here to come to this thing. The best part of the day for me was walking around and talking to all of the different vendors and hearing from several of them that it was their best day of sales ever. And I vend at several shows around the country, so that's like a huge, gigantic compliment. I felt so proud. And the most rewarding thing for me was to see all of the attendees coming together as a community. Everyone there had at least two things in common: a love of fiber arts and at least an interest in witchy things, because we're like practicing witch and like witchy aesthetic, like witchy curious people, friends, Fiber Witch Festival. And people were just like making friends and like seeing people that they had only seen online before in person. And there were all these amazing artists with wares that were like different aesthetics, but like they all had this thing in common that was so beautiful. And the vibes were just like wonderful. So yeah, I like, after we packed up and the vendors left, I like just sat on the stairs and like cried after the show because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that worked.
exceed expectation. And also, I can't imagine the level of relief at that point.
Yes. It's definitely nice to go in this year being like, we have done it before. We know how this works now.
A little proof of concept. Yeah, I'm sure some vendors coming back from the last round. So,
Yep.
they were going to show up probably, all that fun stuff. Wow. So, Anna had talked a little bit about the process of choosing the vendors. What do you feel like the combination of this much percent magically tooling folks versus like fiber aesthetics versus other things? What went into finding like the perfect balance of those?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have like a ratio that we shoot for on those things. We categorize people into just yarn vendors, knitting notions, crafty notion, like felting, craft adjacent kind of stuff, and then purely art or witchy things. And we definitely have a ratio that we stick to for that to make sure that it's not just yarn or just witchy things, because we want people to be able to come as a fiber event and like plan their projects, or like shopping at the show, like, oh, I'm going to buy the sweater, I'm going to go to this dyer, and I'm going to get this and this, but also have people who are just local to Salem or like just visiting Salem for the witchiness aspect and like maybe have never knit or crochet a stitch in their life be able to come and find super fun things too.
Accessible for anyone to enjoy, which is so great because we're just around the corner from another one. And even though I know Saturday is sold out, is Sunday still available?
Yes, but we do have door tickets available for Saturday. So the advance tickets are sold out for Saturday. There will be tickets at the door. We did not sell out the whole venue or the whole time. You can definitely still get in on Saturday. You will just have to wait in a line. But last year, the line at the longest point we tracked it, it was like just around an hour. So not terrible. And the hours of 3 to 5 p.m., both days are free. You don't need to pay to get in. So we expect that there won't be a line for those hours.
Ah, and if there is, most people are some crafter of some sort. So, just get
Great
some
video.
work done. No problem.
Yeah, she had a great video of walking past the line last year, and just like so many people are stitching away in the line.
It's a great life lesson. Always have a little project with you, and then the line is just productive. Part of your products include a lot of, like we said, magical themed items. Do you personally work with any like deities or spirits in your creative process in particular? Because I saw that Baba Yaga pin, and I'm a big fan personally. So
I love Baba Yaga. She is life goals.
yes, give me that chicken house in the woods and beat it, kids. Thanks.
Right. Yes. But for me, I come from being raised Catholic and have like some organized religion trauma things. So I don't really work with deities much in my own practice. I like reading about them and like knowing about the lore and everything. But for me, I'm more of like a magical color theory and elemental kind of practicing witch. I love to take a creative brain break and take a bath with all the elements. So like the water is like the bath, obviously. And I'll have like candle for fire and maybe some music for air and aesthetic little crystals for earth. And I'm a really visual aesthetic based like brain person. So I like to build like little altars with like different colors and elemental features and textures and themes for what I'm trying to curate. So I do a lot of like color element based work.
How did color become like your biggest influence? I mean, I know color is life's biggest influence, but like for you in particular.
I mean, I just like it, right? It makes me feel good. And I really understand it. The meanings that are associated magically with the different colors just like make sense. They just work with my brain. It clicks.
I'm right there with you. My first workshop was all about color theory. And so, yeah, color is certainly very interesting, especially interesting if you see it differently than like the majority of people. My previous co host was, quote, colorblind, even though he's like, I'm not blind. And he was even better at discerning colors, even though he could had like, one less
I
functioning
am also
cone.
colorblind.
Oh, okay. Let's unpack that for a quick minute if you don't mind. Like, where's your level of vision or whatever?
I have yellow blue color blindness, so I don't see yellow super great. And I obviously, like, because I perceive things the way I perceive them, it's hard to describe, but I see a lot of like pink and like cyan blue in my color spectrum. But I'm very good at discerning colors by their value. I didn't even know I was colorblind until middle school because of that.
Well, it's normal for you. So, like, why does it matter, right?
Yeah, and like in elementary school, when you're learning your colors, they're like, this is yellow, and it's a picture of a bus, and you're like, buses are yellow. I work traditionally, but I work mostly digitally designing my products, and that is a huge aid because I know all the number values for what it's
Ah,
supposed to be. So if I'm going for orange, I know it's in between this zone, and that's how I figure it out.
very smart. So, what is a dream product or project that you'd like to create in the future?
I want to design an Ita bag, which, do you know what that is?
An Ida bag?
Yeah, ITA. It's a Japanese type of bag. And it's
Mm.
basically a bag that has a plastic window on it. And then you
Oh.
can put all of your pins in there. And they're protected by the plastic window and they can't fall off and they can't get scratched. So it's a cute way to display your pins, but also be a functioning bag. And I really want to design multiple of them, but one that I've been thinking about for a while has been a little haunted house shaped one where the little windows are where the pins go and you can put little ghosts in the haunted house and it would be so cute. And I would love it to have like maybe a yarn guide or like a snap instead of a zipper, so it would be a good project bag.
Oh, yeah. All those little cat pins in the windows and everything. Pumpkin yarn balls and stuff. Oh, so fun.
Folks having a seance tea party. So
Yes. Oh my gosh. Ooh, okay. Well, that's exciting. Hopefully
well,
that will come to fruition sooner than later because I could definitely see that being very, very attractive to people, especially since I, for one, am very discerning about my pins, which is why the idea of trading them is like a big turnoff for me. I'm like, but I chose this one. But also wearing them, like I'm kind of a klutz, so I'm going to knock it on something. Absolutely, it's going to get scratched the first time I wear it out. Something's going to happen to it. But if it has a nice protection layer, like a sheet
what?
protector, no
Mhm.
worries. Okay, so this next bit is our questions that we've been asking everyone this season. So I'm excited to hear your feedback. Are you ready?
Yes.
Does adapting to challenges come easily to you?
This was a hard question for me because for certain types of challenges, I have undiagnosed ADHD, but I'm actually getting my test for it next month. And my brain is really engaged by problem solving. So sometimes overcoming challenges feels easy to me because I'm like, ooh, this is a problem that I can fix. Let me like think about it. And like, I'm really good in a crisis. But where I struggle with adapting is more everyday challenges, like monitoring my physical needs, like needing to eat food on a regular schedule or not working for 10 hours straight and not taking any breaks. Regular everyday challenges are ironically more of my struggle. And learning to use like adaptations like setting a timer. So I like go take a break and stand up every couple minutes. Like that is really more where I struggle.
Are there any specific tools or rituals or techniques that help you stay flexible when challenges arise?
I really need something to do with my hands at all times, whether or not I'm in a challenging situation or just existing. But if I'm in a challenging situation, having something to do with my hands just like calms whatever part of my brain that is freaking out in the dark recesses of my mind. So that could be having knitting. And even if I'm just like holding it and like feeling it, and not like actually stitching, that can really help my brain feel better in a crisis. I mean, shredding little bits of paper, like assorted fidget. I have amassed a crazy collection of fidget objects that make various levels of noise or not noise at all. And that can really help. But also doing like breath work and taking a little like restorative yoga stretching break can be really helpful to me, because if I'm having a problem in my mind, I feel like doing something with my body is often the answer to calming my brain down.
Do you have any of your products that you go to as like one of these kind of like worry stone situation?
I do have a divination coin that I designed. I grabbed stuff. It's basically an aesthetic quarter. Like you could do a coin flip with it. It's just a big coin, but it's really fun to have in your pocket and just like do this kind of thing with constantly.
Yes. And it's really good with helping make those mundane decisions, because you may think you don't have an opinion about something until it's decided for you, and then you will have an opinion about how that ended up.
Yes. Yeah. Love it for like yes, no questions. Should I do this or this kind of things? And I'm a big like a yes or no question tarot card puller. And sometimes I don't listen to the cards, because as I'm pulling the card and find the answer, I'm like, oh, I actually wanted the other thing.
Oh, such a bold move for tarot yes or no's.
The amount of times that I draw the Two of Swords if I'm trying to do a yes or no answer is wild.
That's the one that always looks like a shrug to me. And I'm always like,
it
helpful.
is.
Thank you.
Shrug card. Like, great. Thanks. Choices are hard. Wonderful.
Either one works out in that, my opinion, Two of Swords is like, you can't go wrong. Just choose one. Is there a time when an unexpected challenge in a project actually led to a better outcome than you had originally planned?
It happens like all the time. And maybe that's because I'm a Virgo and I'm like, everything that I do is right. Pretty much every time I do a commission design, there's, the going back and forth after the sketch, deciding the changes that want to be made. And I'm always internally like, I don't want to make any changes. I like did it right the first time, no matter what change it is. It's just something in my brain that is defiance. But invariably, when I make the changes, it's better. A good example of this is it's actually the Rose City Yarn Crawl this weekend that we're recording this. And I designed the 2025 Rose City Yarn Crawl artwork. And the theme for this year is Our Sky Full of Stars. And it's like a night sky with cute little illustrative constellations in the sky. And the first version I designed didn't have a crochet constellation included. So they asked that I add one. And I made a little like granny square with a crochet hook. And that's like one of the cutest parts of it now. And it wasn't there before I got that feedback. So definite improvement.
You do know everything and you are correct, but also
other people know things too.
That's funny. In what ways do you think adapting and intuition work together when crafting?
I think that they're almost the same thing in crafting. Like learning to welcome adaptation is listening to your intuition about what your brain and body are telling you. They're telling you like, hey, I need extra help and you should do something about that. And being creative is like it's all about listening to your inner voice and like just that little something inside you that's like, hey, maybe like change this line a bit or do this thing or draw this slightly differently. It's like the same voice almost as like, hey, maybe don't sit like that for 2 hours. Maybe like get a nice supportive pillow to hold up the thing.
How have you learned to listen to that voice more over time?
I think just getting older and having experience is a big part of it, and like not caring what others think about as much and just being like, hey, I need this for me. And if that person doesn't like it, I don't really need to have that person around.
Yes.
But I think when you're younger, it's just like you're seeking validation so much that it can be like, well, I don't want to have like something that is a visible, adaptable thing because then other people will know, oh God. But that doesn't matter.
All right. Final question is, what advice would you give someone who's feeling stuck in their creative practice, whether it's any type of creativeness?
I have two things that I do in this situation, both for like knitting personal project stuff and like business art stuff. One is to step away and go do anything else but that. Like play a video game, work on a different project, work on something that's more like rote following of instructions. Like I really like to build Lego set, just like process as opposed to like I am actively designing and making creative choices. It's kind of like taking a shower for my brain. I feel like how you have like your best ideas in the shower. Like while I'm doing that repetitive thing, my brain, I guess, gets bored and is like, oh, that creative thing that we're trying to solve, we could do this. And it just like happens while I'm working on this other thing. And it just like gives your brain a way to not have pressure on and like there's more space to play around. And then my other big suggestion is to totally immerse yourself in inspiration. Like don't try to work on the thing, just absorb inspiration. And I really like to have a Pinterest board and just like I'll search for different aesthetics that I like and just like let it like take me on like a deep dive journey almost of just like making a Pinterest board, just be like, I like that. And it doesn't have to be like for a thing. You don't have to think about it in like, oh, this is in this aesthetic folder in this way. It's just like, no, I like that. And I'm going to collect it for myself, like a Pokemon card right now, and just like save those things and like just let that take you on a magical aesthetic visual journey. And like other ways to do that are like flipping through art books, watching a really aesthetic film, going to a museum. I just like take in input, and that input will probably inspire you in some way that's unexpected.
Great advice. Let go of the need for the outcome. Just
Yeah.
income.
Possibilities.
It sounds very like almost meditative. That's a great suggestions. Oh, Emily, this has been so wonderful. Please tell people where they can find you, your shop, all of the events you're going to be doing, the Fiber Witch Festival, everything.
Well, you can find me pretty much everywhere on the internet as Kitty with a Cupcake, spelled how it sounds. My shop is kittywithacupcake.com, and you can find all of my products, including the Pride Pals. There's also a really fancy builder tool where you can build your own set and like see everything all organized there, how it's going to turn out in your set. And you can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky as at Kitty with a Cupcake. If you want to see like behind the scenes stuff about what I'm working on and what we're doing in the studio, where I'm traveling. And you can also find the Fiber Witch Festival on fiberwitchfestival.com. And we have all of the ticket information there. And we are also on Instagram and Blue Sky as at Fiber Witch Festival. And we are introducing a new event this year as part of the Fiber Witch Festival, the Coronation Ball. So it's a ball on Saturday night, and we're inviting you to dress up in your best according to our theme for the year, which is the coronation of Persephone, queen of the underworld. And we're thinking like drapey crimson fabrics, like velvet black, gold accents, dark florals, pomegranate kind of colors, and like night sky twinkling stars. And Dragon Horde Yarn is sponsoring the event and is going to host a Greek mythology trivia game. Dragon Horde Yarn has also donated our yarn centerpieces, which are going to be raffled off as prizes. And we're having hors d'oeuvres, and there's going to be a cash bar, and it's just going to be a fun night celebrating a love of yarn craft and witchcraft. And it's right next to the marketplace venue. It's at the Hotel Salem, which is just next door to Old Town Hall, where the marketplace is. And tickets are selling out. We probably won't have tickets available for that by the time the show runs around. So if you're interested in coming to that, I highly recommend checking out tickets now on fiberwitchfestival.com.
And if you are not aware, the festival runs from April 11th through the 13th. So be sure to check it out if you are interested. The more we can keep our communities together, the more opportunities we will have to meet instead of having to do everything online. Not that that isn't a bonus, but it is really, really cool to see people in person. And sometimes I know I forget that it's cool to see people in person.
Yeah. It's hard, but it's always wonderful when it happens. And if you are immunocompromised and worried about large events, the first hour of both days is a mask required hour. All of the attendees and vendors are required to wear masks for that first hour. That is the most expensive ticket level. So if that is not accessible to you, just reach out to us if you're immunocompromised and we'll get you set up.
Making it work for everyone to have a great experience. Y'all are the best! Well, thank you again for tuning into Knit a Spell. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe or leave a comment. Share it with a friend who might enjoy it. And of course, on Friday, we will have the after show on Patreon. So if you aren't a member there, it's just $5 a month. Great way to support the show if you're able. And even if it's just for 1 month. So we appreciate you and we will see you next week. Thank you again, Emily. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, consider sharing it with a friend, leaving a review on iTunes or Spotify, and supporting us on Patreon to enjoy exclusive content. You can also subscribe to the Light from Lantern YouTube channel to receive a notification whenever a new episode of Knit a Spell is released. And as always, I'd love to hear your feedback on this episode, so be sure to leave a comment on YouTube or on Patreon. See you next week!